Hi, I'm back for our next episode of Weather Eye. I'm meteorologist Ian Kowalski. This week, what is our topic going to be? We have a few things happening around the U.S., but certainly here in the Grand Valley, the number one topic was that snow squall moving through the Grand Valley. We'll be talking about that a little bit more in the second half of our show, but first, we're going to take a look at that system and see how it moved across the United States. And then we'll take a look on how it's going to affect the plains, with some fire concerns ongoing, and a little bit of tornado warnings over towards the Midwest. Before we bring it back here, we talk about snowfall that we're going to get another round of as we move to the next few days. In addition, again, we're going to take another look at that snow squall and see how it's affected our snowpack totals here in western Colorado. So let's take a look at our radar from earlier on this week. What did we see? We saw that squall move through the area, but where did it start? Let's take a look over towards California, okay? We will look at very early on in the day yesterday. This is being filmed on February the 19th, the day after our big weather event. So let's take a look at where it started. Again, the west coast of the United States was brought on by heavy rain showers and potential for thunderstorms, light tornado concerns in there. But the main thing that you heard about was avalanche concerns up in the Sierra Nevada. It also led to, unfortunately, some hikers being lost in the mountains. So what did that actually mean for those in California? We'll take a look towards one of our national packages to see how the flooding affected those on the ground.
I don't know how else to describe it. That's a big tree, and we can be a little light with this because when that big pine came over yesterday afternoon, no one was around. There wasn't anybody in the car that it hit, although it was relatively minor damage. The tree did not strike any of the homes along here. Did tear up the sidewalk pretty well, but that Tesla's going to be okay. And again, no one occupying that car. There wasn't anybody walking by. It is Exhibit A of the mayhem that took place Monday into Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday morning. Did you hear it? As hard a rain as many of us have ever experienced. You heard thunder, you saw lightning. We had a little bit of everything today. We'll talk about the respite because we want you to be careful if you're out and about because we got bright sunshine right now. Speaking of rain, the San Diego River cresting as we speak. It's being monitored. The winds obviously have died down considerably, but Delaney is saying we got watches and warnings because we're expecting more wind again tonight, which could impact the airport. Wednesday, another round of rain and certainly snow in the mountains. As for the respite, if you're out and about today, and we've got some fluffy clouds out and about, but it's pretty sunny, please be aware of leaning trees, of broken limbs. If that tree's already gone over and SDG&E lines are down, don't touch them. But please call the utility immediately with the location. As for water, we've got flooding everywhere, not just the San Diego River and all of our low-lying areas. Don't forget, 4 inches of water can flood your engine, 6 inches can move your car. So we've got our swiftwater rescue crews from Oceanside to San Diego standing by. And again, Exhibit A, lots of firewood in our future. We're in Pacific Beach and we're back to the studio.
All right, so you saw some of that intense flooding for yourself. That's how that system started off, and then it reached us here in western Colorado. This super strong cold front, you felt it, and temperatures immediately started to cool down. And if you looked over towards the west, there's a good hour leading up to when it actually got towards the center of the Grand Valley that you could see it move through Loma and Mac over towards Fruita, and then finally reach us here in the center of Grand Junction. What happened after that, though? It moved over towards the Grand Mesa. You saw that snow squall warning being issued. I'm sure you got the notification on your phone. And then it moved on over towards the central mountains. And once you get a little bit later on in the day, remember, it swept through about 2 o'clock-ish, and it was only there for about 30, 45 minutes. Certainly, it was a crazy 30, 45 minutes. We'll be talking about that more later on in the show, what happened here. However, it then moved on towards the mountains, and we talked a lot about staying safe on the roads. You don't want to be on the roads in those squall conditions, sudden whiteouts, and it was gone just as soon as it started, and all the snow melted because we warmed right back up. But what did it look like up in the mountains? We'll take a look at Vail Pass earlier on yesterday, where we saw that snow arrive.
Yeah, you guys, it's really coming down up here in the mountains right now. We're at the tunnels, and that's I-70 out there. You can see it's pretty well covered out there. I mean, just a while ago, there was hardly anything out there because the CDOT plows been coming by here, every half hour, 20 minutes or so. They scrape it, but with the wind and the snow coming down like it has, it goes back on there. But this is really white gold coming out of the sky for the resorts. It's been so dry up here all season long. The resorts have been suffering all season long so far. This is probably going to be the biggest event so far this season, snow-wise. It really will be a real help for the resorts who have been suffering. We're supposed to get something like 10 to 24 inches here over the next 72 hours. The big CDOT signs warn people coming up the roadway. Winter storm expected through Thursday morning. Be prepared. That is key. That's what you will have to do if you're coming up here. The roads are treacherous. I-70 will be treacherous out here. If you're coming up to ski, ride, recreate, be prepared for very winter-like treacherous conditions. But as we said, this really is white gold coming out of the sky. The resorts will love it, and everybody who wants to come up here and who has put off the time skiing or riding here, they will love it as well. Just be careful as you come up I-70 into the high country anytime over the next 72 hours. At the tunnels, I'm Jim Hooley, Fox 31.
I'm back once more, and so what are we talking from here? We're going to take a look into the future and what's happening next. Not only across the entirety of the United States and active weather going on as we move into the end of the week, but also here in western Colorado. We'll take a more local view on how that snow we saw over the weekend affects us here in the Grand Valley and Colorado snowpack. But first, we got to take a look at what is happening next. We're actually not done with snowfall, believe it or not. This is a view of our upper level flow. Thousands of miles up in the atmosphere. Not thousands of miles, it's a bit of an exaggeration. But point is, we are seeing this low pressure system move into western Colorado. It's going to bring another round of snowfall as we get into Thursday night and Friday. Again, this is being recorded on the 19th. So if you're watching this, you may already have seen that snow move through the area. To keep in mind, it's going to have some minor effects on travel, about an inch of snowfall, but we'll be talking about that more here in a little bit. So it's going to sweep across the western slope and move on into the central portion of the United States, and that's going to bring, unfortunately, some more fire concerns towards the plains region, because we already saw with that big cold front moving through incredibly strong winds. In fact, here at the airport, we got gusts up to 50 miles per hour here in Grand Junction when that cold front and that squall moved through the area, and then it moves out. We start to build up a little bit of ridging as we get into early next week. Going to be a little bit of a warm-up, start to get highs in those 50s here in Grand Junction. That won't be the case forever, though. We do see a little bit of a wetter pattern moving in after that. We'll be keeping a close eye to see where that ends up. So what's the first thing that we are going to look at? This map here is going to show us where fire concerns are still at. Generally here towards the Plains region and the Panhandle portion of Texas, that's where ongoing fires are. These gray zones, that's smoke, extending all the way from here, a little bit south of Liberal over towards Elk City right now, here as we're recording, and a little bit north of Amarillo too. Why do you see that? We saw those 70-mile-per-hour gusts and 50-mile-per-hour gusts here in the Grand Valley, 70 miles per hour. In the mountains, that went right over towards the Plains region. The exact same front moved through the area and kicked up a lot of dry weather concerns. I'm sure you've already heard from your friends on the Front Range how windy it was and all those red flag warnings being issued, as well as some fires popping up here in Colorado. I have another few days of that for the plains ongoing, and unfortunately, with this secondary low-pressure system that's going to bring snow over the weekend, what's that going to mean? Only gusts in that 35-mile-per-hour range at the very most. So for western Colorado, it's not going to be as big of a deal. But for places already seeing fires, like, again, towards the Panhandle, it's going to matter a whole lot more, unfortunately. So let's take a little bit of a look at our next slide here. These are our wind gusts. So how windy is it going to get as that low moves right through the central portion of the Rockies? Again, not as bad here in Colorado. We're going to take our little colored scale here in that 20 to 30 mile per hour zone at the peaks of the mountains. Sure, you're still getting those strong winds, but you're always getting the strong winds over towards portions of the Front Range. It's mainly going to be down towards south, a little bit south of Pueblo, and over down towards our friends in Albuquerque and New Mexico is where it's going to be the worst. We're getting the exact center point of that low, so we're not exactly going to see as extreme conditions for us here in the Grand Valley nor on the central portion of the Divide, but still a bit windier than you would typically expect on a nice calm weather day, but nothing too crazy for Colorado. I think we're used to that wind. Another factor we're talking about in our forecast here on our, again, it's not really a satellite radar. This is our relative humidity. I'm going to play a very important forecast across the U.S. right now because you'll see towards that panhandle region, it is dry. Those temperatures, again, that relative humidity, it's about how high the temperature is and where that moisture is. And those temperatures are way, way above in this red zone here, that actual moisture available in the air. What's that mean? It's dry. You know that it's dry. Same thing here in western Colorado, but that low moving over here, that's where that moisture is right now, already on the west coast. It's coming over towards us. That's what's going to bring snow on Thursday night tonight and Friday, then drying out a little bit as we move into next week. But that's why you're still seeing those fires ongoing in the Plains region. There's another part of our forecast that we're going to talk about here for the greater continental United States, and that is right here in the Midwest, where ongoing tornado concerns, actually, for the start of February, or middle of February by now, are still ongoing. Humidity is one of the big factors in our forecast. You need humidity to build up energy. Sure, you're still seeing thunderstorms here in western Colorado in the winter. I mean, we saw yesterday actually a little bit of a severe thunderstorm warning for our friends near Nucla, where you'd see a little bit of hail, right? It's still possible in the winter, certainly. But the more humidity, the more moisture available, the stronger those storms can become, even though it still remains relative to the time of year you're at. That's very wet for this time of year, and that's why you are seeing severe storm warnings being issued. And in the SPC Outlook, what is the SPC? It's the Storm Prediction Center. They're talking about this all the time on the eastern portion of the U.S., but certainly western Colorado, because we have these generally milder conditions. We don't really talk about those watches and warnings quite as much. I think many of you probably moved to here in Grand Junction because, well, the weather's pretty tame most of the year. I know it's a big contrast compared to yesterday, but generally speaking, year-round, if you're new to the area, you're not seeing snow squalls too often. In the Midwest, however, you really do rely upon these SPC outlooks. They tell you basically if it's a big old orange zone, that's an enhanced risk zone. That means there's some real severe weather potential. What is that severe weather? We talked about it earlier, tornadoes. Again, in that yellow enhanced zone here. Good chance because of some wind shear. There's two types of shear. We're going to look at it here on our radar here in a moment. Vertical shear are the winds going different directions in the atmosphere. And directional shear, which is just if they're on the same level, are they going different directions? We'll take a look at that here in a moment. So what's our satellite radar look like right now? Here's over towards our west. This is what's coming our way. It's what's going to bring us snowfall here as we move into Thursday night and into Friday. I do expect in terms of timing, again, we're going to get more into it here in a little bit. It's going to affect your nighttime drive and into your travel in the mountains on Friday morning. So it's coming over towards us here in western Colorado. And then we're going to look at the Plains region here. It's that snow ongoing, and then it's the back half of what is bringing all of this severe potential over here towards the southern portion of Indiana and northwestern Kentucky. This is your tornado watch in effect till 7 p.m. tonight. And we see right here, let's take a look. I'm going to point at this. That's a tornado warning right there. I'll have to go look to see if that's been confirmed on the ground. But point is being issued with these smaller isolated cells. You see the little pink in there too. That means there's a little bit of hail potential at the same time. Not exactly what you're expecting in the middle of February, but for the Midwest, it could be less common than it is. It's certainly not off the table. And it's going right towards Indy Metro right now. It's also right here in West Virginia and going over towards the East Coast. Again, just that strong buildup of humidity. It's so moist that we can see an additional buildup of energy for the winter, and that's why you get those strong thunderstorms with lightning attached to them this time of year, which you aren't exactly always used to seeing, especially here in western Colorado. And so it's moving on over towards the East Coast, traveling east all across West Virginia and over and towards Big Virginia over here a little bit further towards the coast, and you're still seeing those thunderstorms in there. Going to bring some potential, again, for severe warm storms, but nothing's been issued right now. It's mainly just that tornado watch. It's a really big threat. So we want to talk about wind shear one more time. Again, two different kinds. It's directional and in layers of the atmosphere. And this is our mainly directional shear. It's what we look for in case there is these areas with those tornado warnings. You can see in here, I know this is a messy chart, but there's only really one thing you need to pay attention to on here. It's those red dots in the middle of the green. What does that mean? It means that the wind is going one direction in the red and another direction in the green. And that's how you get it twisting together, and that's how you get a tornado. I just hit my mic there. I got a little too excited. But that's what you're looking for here if you were a meteorologist in the Midwest. That is the main thing you'd be looking for is indication ahead of time what the position of a tornado will be and if there's potential for it to form. You're not seeing as much as that over here towards West Virginia, but certainly still a little bit. You see these strong isolated cells. You certainly know what to look for. If you came from over the eastern portion of the United States, used to play some more tornadoes, that's what you're looking for. And so that'll be the end of our Midwest coverage for now. Let's take a look regionally, bring it back here to Colorado, and see what is going to be happening next for us. I'm pointing out right here, this is an avalanche warning. Our Colorado Avalanche Information Center. Most of the areas are in a 4 out of 5 on that scale. What's that mean for you? Well, it means backcountry travel is going to be very easy to trigger avalanches over the next few days, in part because we saw all those gusts kick up all that snow and move snow from one area to another. And that's really no different than if you say actually snow on top of snow, which also triggers avalanches. Just adding that extra weight and then having a less packed down layer of snowfall, a little bit dustier, even though it might freeze together a little bit. That means it's still easier for those two layers to slide off of each other and trigger an avalanche. So very easy to trigger these next few days. Again, 4 out of 5 on that scale. Some areas I do believe have a 5 out of 5, but I'd have to check that for yourself. So if you're watching this through Friday in the work week, do keep in mind those concerns are going to stick around. I would not be surprised if you did see these warnings extended to the weekend. So please keep a close eye if you have any backcountry travel plans or outdoor backcountry recreation plans too. Those could be a little dangerous this weekend. And you have these lighter blue zones here. These are your winter weather advisories. What's the difference between that and a winter storm warning? Basically, it's just how much snowfall are you going to see? How crazy are those winds going to be? And right now, the winter weather advisories are on the lesser end of that. And they are issued along the Uncompahgre, down towards the San Juan Mountains, and a little bit up further north towards the Rowan Plateau. And that is because, of course, that low pressure we talked about coming here to bring snow Thursday night into Friday. So let's take a little bit closer of a look here. What's going to be happening the next few days. Here's early tomorrow morning. Already seeing that snowfall start to pop up. And finally, you're in the Grand Valley. You're seeing those temperatures be below freezing. So I do actually think, compared to that snow squall that we saw a couple days ago, that we will actually get higher snowfall totals here in the Grand Valley. Because you have that really brief, intense snow, sure. But it really didn't stick around that long. We're going to be cold enough where I think overnight through the rest of the day on Friday, you could end up with around of an inch here in the Grand Valley specifically. Again, some of it will melt because you're still going to warm back up as you move throughout the rest of the day. I mean, you're still seeing highs in those low 40s. And even as you get towards 6 p.m., I mean, 35 is still above freezing. So you might see it falling as snow. It's going to be cold enough in that upper atmosphere for that to happen. But maybe brief transitions to rainfall, and that snow you get in the morning, which could affect your early morning travel on Friday, is going to end up melting for us here in the valleys. But Montrose is going to be a little bit different, of course. It's going to stick around a little bit longer. You're not getting as high above freezing in those southern valleys as we move into the weekend. And it's hanging out still all along I-70. You know what that means, of course. If you're heading east up towards Vail Pass, over towards the Front Range for the weekend, you are going to be with some snow up there too. So do keep that in mind. Could slow down travel a little bit. It's not going to be nearly as intense as what we saw earlier on in the week. Those winds, it's only going to be in around that 35 mile per hour range here in the valleys at the very most while that system is moving through. If you don't hit that, I wouldn't be too surprised. So again, those squall potentials are not nearly as high, but do keep that in mind. Could still see some heavier snowfall, especially up towards the mountains. Down towards south in San Juan Sur, it's not going to really be any different if you're heading towards Uray, Telluride, all the way down south along $1 Million Highway until you get down towards New Mexico. So snowfall, we're very happy to see that. But one thing I did want to talk about, though, is what kind of snowfall have we been seeing here in the western slope? We need that snowpack. We certainly do. We've been around that 55% zone. I think, I just checked it right before the show. I believe we're now at around 67% of normal snowpack, where we should be, again, kind of those mid to upper 60s zones. In terms of the snowfall, we got help. Right, that's the bottom line, but we're still needing our 30-40% of snowfall relative to where we should be. It's a long roundabout way of saying, we need more snow. And I think a more elegant way of saying it would be from a package by our very own Kyle Kawamoto, where he talked towards our state climatologist about what that snowpack that we saw being built up over the past few days is going to mean for us here in Colorado. Let's take a look.
Snow is very important in the state of Colorado, but how important is it? Well, everyone knows this is the source of our water and what limits fire danger in the summer. I spoke with climate and mountain experts to understand more about the snowpack impacts this year.
Statewide snowpack is still the lowest it's been in over 40 years.
Colorado is still lacking in snow despite the latest weather the western slope has received. And this is still not enough to pass the halfway point for 2026.
Right now we are at 55% of median snowpack.
Globe explains to me that recent snowpack measurements show this year has the lowest recorded snow levels for the season. However, older manual surveys from 1977 and 1981 indicate that those years have even lower snow levels. He tells me there is hope in the air, but on the other hand,
I'm not optimistic that we're going to get all the way back to normal.
in the higher elevations, this can create dangers for those who love to recreate in the snow, where avalanche danger is high. According to the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, the agency is seeing a level 4 to 5 danger.
Right now we have pretty dangerous avalanche conditions, in the flat tops, on the Grand Mesa, and really kind of across the western slope.
Cooper-Stein advises staying on slopes less than 30 degrees to avoid avalanches, as they usually occur between 30 and 50 degrees. Watch out for cracks in the snow and check the website for any recent avalanche activity, especially during significant snow or wind events, which can destabilize the snowpack.
That really makes us pretty nervous. The more people we have in the mountains during dangerous conditions, the more we really get worried and want to warn people to be careful.
Globe says El Nino conditions may occur this summer, which could be leading to weather in Colorado, which could help alleviate the drought, in which current conditions suggest there is a higher risk of wildfires, but the outcome remains uncertain. Reporting in studio, I'm Kyle Kawamoto.
All right, I'm back again. And again, they were talking about 55%. That's gone up since, because you saw that snow squall move through the area. Just keep in mind the interview was recorded before our big weather event. So our futurecast shows for the weekend, it's going to be clear, going to be nice. There's not too much to talk about except for those warming conditions getting back into those 40s. Clouds move through overnight, but still brief transition, even to those 50-degree highs as you make it towards Monday. We're going to see high pressure build in, a little bit of ridging. It just means it's going to be warmer. It's going to be sunnier as you move into early next week. There is some chances for precipitation in the middle of the week, but right now I'm thinking to kind of stay out of the valleys for the most part. It's going to be more up towards the park range. So let's take a look at our futurecast. Again, kind of more regional view of what is going to be happening over the next couple of days, all moving along Salt Lake City. Of course, no surprises there. Anything that we get here in the western slope, they get all along in Utah. Coming over towards us, you can see the curve of that low pressure system. And again, what we're worried about is if it goes even just a little bit further south, could hurt with those fires if those wind gusts just pick up a little bit. Remember, we don't need those 70 miles per hour gusts if those fires are already going. So that is a concern we do have. But you also notice this is our warmer area, the drier air. You aren't going to see that snow pop up. Instead, more towards the rain, over towards the Panhandle region. But down towards Albuquerque, remaining dry as you move to the next couple of days. It's going to be mostly a Colorado event, even though those wind gusts are going to still pick up down towards the southern portion of the Rockies, moving into New Mexico. And then clear, not too much to speak of as we look at the regional forecast. Again, moving over towards west, east, south, north, wherever you want to go. It's going to be fine as long as you get through Friday. And keep in mind, if you're going on the roads, that it is going to be, again, wildly affecting Colorado's moving the weekend. Then not a lot to talk about. Clear skies. So let's take more of a national view. After this thing moves through the area, where else are we looking? Over towards the Midwest, you're already seeing those systems start to move through the area, going up towards our north, and then it goes up towards Canada. Not too much to speak about anymore. But on the East Coast, you do still see the remnants as we move into Friday of that severe weather that you are seeing in the Midwest going on right now, actually. So it's going to move up towards New York, closer over towards Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine, not Portland on the West Coast. And then moving over a little bit as we move into the weekend, and we're getting another round of storms down towards the Ohio Valley region, or heading towards the Ohio Valley, and over towards the eastern plains where some snowfall is still expected. So not completely out of thunderstorm territory, unfortunately, for those in the Midwest as you move into the weekend. Then it heads over here towards the East Coast, another round of snowfall for New York. No surprises there this time of year. And then seeing a little bit of rain going on towards West Virginia. Let's take a look at the West Coast, though. This is Sunday at 6 a.m. Seeing another front move into the area. This is not quite going to reach us in western Colorado. It's going to start to pitter out a little bit as it gets closer towards us, and then move on over towards the north because we have this zone of high pressure, this ridge here, okay? So what's that mean for us? Staying dry. All this is high pressure, drier air as you move into early next week. So that's the end of our episode here for Weather Eye. We went over, again, what happened here with the snow here in Colorado, the building up of that snowpack here. And we did see that we've seen improvement, right? But we do need, that's drier conditions that we see as we move into early next week. It's not exactly what we want to see. Here's my email right here. If you have any pictures of maybe the snow squall that you took earlier on in the week, be happy to show them, feature them here on the show. And again, as we move into next week, it's going to remain a lot drier. We do have these couple days of snowfall tonight and into Friday. Could affect your travel along I-70 and further south towards Million Dollar Highway, heading into the San Juans. But overall, we're going to be fine as we move into next week in terms of active weather. We're going to dry out a little bit, see highs warm up, even back into the 50s here in the Grand Valley. And then as you move towards the middle of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to start to see some snow pop up towards the Park Range. I know we didn't quite see it on our visuals right there. But thank you for watching this episode. We'll be back next week with another episode of Weather Eye.